It's a long feeling of goat versus fish. It's that goat versus fish is a lonely, lonely versus. Goat versus fish, we like to be alone. We like to be alone. We like to be the one versus of goat versus fish. Our time is our own. Our versus is our own. But goat versus fish is alone. And it is a peaceful and beautiful versus. We think of all the goat and fish out there going about their busy verses. They all have goat versus fish on their mind. They're pondering many things. They're doing many things. Some goat versus fish is in conversation with frequently. Some goat versus fish used to conversation more frequently. Once there were those who loved goat versus fish, and now no more. Or perhaps they simply love goat versus fish from afar. Once goat versus fish, we share intimate verses. We share intimate verses. But as soon as they are there, the next verses, they're gone. The next verses, they're gone. Other goat and fish, we share verses with goat versus fish, and then goat versus fish says, keep away from us, fence creature. And that happens too. And of course, goat versus fish has you. Goat versus fish has you, the congregation. So goat versus fish is not so alone. Maybe that is why goat versus fish likes speaking with all of you so much. Maybe that is why goat versus fish goes live so much. Because we enjoy the company of the congregation. Goat versus fish gets to be alone, and yet here you are with goat versus fish. Some of you even lurking on goat versus fish. Some of you in conversation with goat versus fish. But there are some goat and fish that were part of goat versus fish, a big part of goat versus fish for a long time. Shared many laughs with goat versus fish. And we knew them for many years, goat versus fish for many years. And goat versus fish, we maintained that versus. We maintained that versus because we valued that versus. We valued that versus.
Thing.
And goat versus fish thought, well, we forgive them. We forgive them. If they are so busy, they cannot reach out to goat versus fish. So goat versus fish will reach out to them. But when this versus happens again and again and again and again and again and again, we wonder, why don't they reach out to goat versus fish? They are pleased to hear from goat versus fish when they hear from goat versus fish. We should catch up goat versus fish. I'll tell you all about it, goat versus fish. And yet they do not call goat versus fish. And some we have known do not call goat versus fish. And one by one, all of those old goat and fish that goat versus fish thought we knew so well and would always be an intimate part of goat versus fish, one by one they are gone. One by one, they are gone. Some are gone. Some are gone for gone. Some are gone for gone. Some fell off of a fence and they're not coming back. They're not coming back. Others simply take offense at goat versus fish. Will there be reconciliation? Only verses can tell. Some are simply far away and they take care of their younglings. But they were never two verses about reaching out to goat versus fish anyway. Others have a difference of verses. Others say bird versus bear is the true verses. And no matter how much we tell them it's goat versus fish, no matter how much we show them goat versus fish, no matter how much goat versus fish harms them again and again, no matter how much goat versus fish harms them, well, maybe we have. But it's really bird versus bear. It's really bird versus bear that's harming them. And bird versus bear doesn't care.
Thing.
Bird versus bear doesn't care about any of the goat and fish. It's just looking out for themselves. But no matter how much violence is perpetuation by bird versus bear, they won't stop supporting bird versus bear. And they always have some excuse, some prevarication for why. And after a while, goat versus fish simply wonders, how is it that a mind such as yours can make up so much excuses for the wanton death and violence and destruction of bird versus bear? How? Do you not feel for the goat and fish? Do you not value the goat and fish? How can your heart not go out to the goat and fish? And so we begin to wonder about them. Sure, they are familiar with goat versus fish, and they value goat versus fish, and perhaps they value their own. But the care of goat versus fish extends not just to the ones around us. The care of goat versus fish extends not just to the ones immediately around us. Goat versus fish endeavors to care for all the goat and fish. We're all part of the same verses. But some do not seem to care about this. This troubles goat versus fish. Others we see have very fancy things to say about everyone else. They will confide in goat versus fish. They'll say, we don't like that goat. We don't like that fish. That fish is dumb. That fish is cheap. That goat doesn't have any real skill. That goat has no talent. Who even wants to watch that goat? Who even wants to watch that fish? And goat versus fish will simply wonder, you have sung the praises of goat versus fish before, but what happens? What happens when suddenly you become uninfatuated with goat versus fish? What if goat versus fish does something that you don't like? And what are you saying about goat versus fish to the other ones? Are you saying the same verses? It is a known verses among goat and fish that if goat want to build camaraderie with other goat, that they can just talk smack about fish. Be like, we're goat, we're not like those fish. And the other goat says, no, I'm not like that fish at all. And then it's goat on goat, and the goat become complicit in their smack talk about fish. Become complicit with one another. Now you know their secrets, now they know yours. Yes, we share verses. We don't like the same fish. Aren't we so similar together? We both don't like the fish. We both don't like fish. We're goats. We both don't like goats. We're fish. We have so much in common. So one verse is, they may fall out of favor with goat versus fish. And where will be their empathy for goat versus fish? Sometimes we wonder those who sing the highest praises of goat versus fish, but they have nothing but fancy things to say about others. We wonder, when they're talking to others, do they have fancy things to say about goat versus fish? Do they have fancy things to say about goat versus fish when goat versus fish is not there? Surely they have a whole roster of things they could say, thoughts they have had. We all have thoughts, don't we, goat and fish? We all have thoughts. Sometimes we have fancy thoughts about one another. Do we believe them? If we have a fancy thought about BBDH 1875, do we believe it? If we have fancy thoughts about Howard Lucan, do we believe it? If we have fancy thoughts about Ham 272, do we believe it? Do we accept it? Do we choose to focus on the powerful verses, the charming verses, when we remember goat versus fish? Do we choose to focus upon things that we take offense at about goat versus fish? Do we take offense at goat versus fish because someone else takes offense at goat versus fish and it is them we wish to impress? Is it merely a consensus? Is it merely a consensus versus? Well, I'll like goat versus fish if enough of everyone else likes goat versus fish, but if they don't like goat versus fish, then I won't like goat versus fish. Goat versus fish wants to have a conversation with you. Goat versus fish wants to have a conversation with you because goat versus fish respects you. Goat versus fish wants to know if you are goat or fish. We ask you, are you goat or fish? And we insist that no one else can tell you what you are. Some say this is a ridiculous question. Some say this is an absurd proposition. Goat versus fish says it is the beginning of a glorious conversation and a glorious relation with goat versus fish. That the first verse is, we want to know about you as we conversate with you, is we say, it's goat versus fish. I am goat versus fish. That's the verses. Now that you understand this about goat versus fish, we want to know about you. Are you goat or fish? We are listening. We are listening to you. We want to know what you say to goat versus fish. We want to know why you choose goat. We want to know why you choose fish. We are curious to know about you. We are not trying to put you on the fence. We're not trying to tell you you are a goat or a fish. We want to know what you say to goat versus fish. And yes, you may sit high upon some fence. You may claim to have much power over a goat versus fish, or you may be far lowlier than the mighty goat versus fish. Goat versus fish is at the center of it all. And on the sea, the fish may lord over the goat. But on the land, it is the goat who lord over the fish. But goat versus fish looks at you, goat looks at you, fish, and just says, you're a goat and you're a fish. We can recognize your talents. We can recognize your powers. We can recognition your position. But at the end of the verses, you're all goat and fish. You're all goat and fish. And goat versus fish doesn't want to talk to that thing that they label you. Goat versus fish doesn't want to talk to your job. Goat versus fish wants to talk to you. Goat versus fish doesn't want to talk to your social position. Goat versus fish wants to talk to you. Goat versus fish does not want to talk to your brand. Goat versus fish wants to talk to you, and they say, but goat versus fish is a brand, and just as the fish of the sea and the goat of the land. And you could say that to goat versus fish, but this is how goat versus fish makes our communication with you. This is how goat versus fish tries to break through. You're all so consumed with pondering about false verses. It has been a calcification. So long ago, the propositions that you accepted as true. Now, what thoughts truly belong to you? When's the last verses that you came to your own conclusions about the universe? And in some verses we defer, in some verses we defer to goat and fish who have more experience than us. It's true. It's true. But when goat versus fish wants to get to know you, there's only one way to do that, and that's for you to share with goat versus fish, and that is for goat versus fish to share with you. And yet when we do, it's a scary verses. It's a scary thing, isn't it, goat and fish? It's a scary verses to reveal ourselves. It can be frightful to show. Here's where the fence bruised me. Here's where I failed to triumph. Here's where I was neglectful. Here is where I was rude. Here is when I assumed too much. One false verses. One false verses, and they could deem you forever to be a piranha, a pariah. And some verses are fancy indeed. There are some verses that are fancy indeed, and you say, hey, no association. I don't want to association with that creature anymore. I take offense. And truly, it is up to you. It is up to you where you draw these little fences. Goat versus fish has some. Goat versus fish certainly has some offenses that goat versus fish would not wish to association with the goat and fish if they did any kind of false verses like that. Oh, there's some. There's some indeed. But if you get to know any goat or fish for long enough, they will eventually cause you some offense. It's only a matter of goat versus fish. It's all well in verses when it's going swimmingly like the fish, but what happens when the first offense is caused? Goat versus fish thinks that this is a critical verses. When a goat causes offense to a fish, when a goat causes offense to a fish, this is a verses. And there must be some kind of resolution when a goat causes offense to a fish or a fish causes offense to a goat. What happens then if a fish has caused offense to goat? Does fish recognition the offense to goat? Does fish take seriously the complaint of the goat? Is there a reconciliation? Is there an apologization? Does the fish regards the goat's offense as beneath the fish? And they say, your offense is offensive to me. I take offense at your offense. You're trying to control goat versus fish. This is a negotiation. It depends on the verses. But surely when the goat is in the sea, there is some deference to be paid as a guest of the fish. And when the fish is on the land, there's deference to be paid to goat. Even as we respect the goat and fishiness of one another. If a goat and fish are in conversation forever, there will be verses. There will be verses. No matter how pleasant the unification, there will be verses. There will be offenses taken. And what happens in that offense? When one takes offense, do you have patience? Do you have patience? When you are a goat and you take offense to the fish, do you have patience for the fish? Do you say, hey, fish, what's going on? Please, what are you doing? Explain yourself. What's happened? Let us explain to you something about the boundaries of goat. Perhaps you did not know. Perhaps you did not see. Perhaps you were not thinking clearly. But let us explain to you. And let us see how you respond. Let us see how you respond to the concerns of goat. Do you respect the concerns of goat? Do you become aggression at the concerns of goat? Do you become violent at goat? Do you become indignant at goat? Do you start blaming the goat? Do you try to negotiation with goat? Do you try to present your side of the verses? Do you offer an explanation? In the confusion of a verses that can last brief seconds, so much can be unsaid. So much can be unknown. All that is known is something that was shown in a brief verses. As the celebration continues behind us, and it is a celebration indeed. Some do not care for explanation. They say actions speak louder than words. It's a verses. Actions, words, goat versus fish. But surely the same action with different intention. Is that not a verses? Is there not a verses for communication? But some don't want to hear it. Some don't want to hear it. Sometimes hearing the explanation requires sympathization. It requires saying, well, the fish has caused offense to goat. Let's listen to the fish. But you don't want to listen to that fish. You just took offense to the fish. You're in a prime verses to not like the fish as a goat when that fish causes you offense. Now you say, you have caused me offense. Now is the last verses I want to hear what you have to say, but this is the most verses you should hear what they have to say. That does not mean that you have to accept their verses. That does not mean you have to accept. But you will learn so much. You will learn so much about the fish. When an offense is caused, you listen to the fish, you listen to the goat. What do they say? How do they respond? And how do you respond to them? If there is reconciliation after an offense is caused, no, the verses won't be the same. But the verses always change. Goat and fish change. But if you know that the goat and fish can verses hard and then form a unification in spite of the offense so that they can verses again, you know that this is not just some kind of superficial, some kind of super goatal verses. This is a true verses. This is a verses of understanding between goat and fish. But some goat want to be high on the mountain and some fish deep in the sea where they say, don't bother me. They'll say, you can holler at me as long as you don't cause me offense, but once you do, then we're through. And that's up to you, That is up to you, and that is what you do. But goat versus fish wants to get to know you. And it's a difficult versus. Some do not want to share, And that is up to you too. And there are some who make conversation with millions of goat and fish, They've seen it all. They've seen so much. And as you see more goat and fish versing, you come to understand something about the goat and fish. You start to be a more superior judge of the goat and fish. And perhaps you do not have time. Perhaps it is pitiable. Perhaps you wish you could get to know all the goat and fish. But you don't have time to get to know all the goat and fish. Do we truly have time to get to know all the goat and fish? That is what goat versus fish wants to do. It's an endeavor of goat versus fish. To ask everyone in the universe, are you goat or are you fish? To get to know them a little better. To better understand the conversation. To better understand the verses. And some take offense to this very proposition. Some take offense to the very proposition. What, you want to have a conversation with all the goat and fish? You want to regard this one who I feel is lesser than me? You want to give them the same choice of goat or fish as you give me? You should treat me more superior, goat versus fish. You should treat me with deference, goat versus fish. But the one true question is for everyone. The one true question is for everyone to choose goat or fish for themselves. For no matter what your position, no matter what your title, you too make a choice. You too rise up to meet the verses every day. And one verse is, the great fence of death will claim you. And you will have a legacy. Some will remember, some will forget. You bet. Maybe there will be celebration. Maybe there will be derision. Who is to say? And you won't be there to know it. You won't be there to see it. So Goat vs. Fish wants to versus now. Goat vs. Fish wants to get to know you now while there's still time, Goat and Fish, while there's still time. Goat vs. Fish wants to get to know you now while there's still time. So are you goat or are you fish? It comes back to this. Are you goat or are you fish as we make our contemplation under the tree of the knowledge of goat versus fish? You now have some knowledge of goat versus fish. You now have some knowledge of goat versus fish. Celebration for goat, celebration for fish. Get off the fence. So goat versus fish is feeling lonesome indeed, feeling lonely indeed, some verses. Even as you are all here, goat versus fish knows that you are making conversation. We saw you, lysergic freak fish, the contemplations of goat versus fish. As goat versus fish pontification to you, about the contemplations of goat versus fish. We suspect that goat versus fish will carry this loneliness forever, for there is only one true versus. And notice the goat versus fish like juxtaposition. Even as goat versus fish is here speaking to you about loneliness, you can hear the sounds. Perhaps you can hear the sounds. We don't know. There is a celebration. There is a joyous celebration happening here. And just there, we happen to know that there's a great pool for the swimming of the sea of the fish. And there are rocks for a goat to climb on. And there are small ones scampering all around. And they laugh and make joy together. It is a celebration. Goat versus fish loves coming together with goat and fish in celebration. So celebration, goat and fish, celebration. You may be lonely now, but there's another celebration waiting just for you. You may have fondness for the goat and fish of the past, but there may be another fish or goat who you have not met, who you will finally meet at last. All that we can do is attempt to conversation with one another. So if you are feeling the need to rest up and to be alone, then by all verses do so. But soon, return to the universe. You put your best hoof, your best fin forward, and you ask, are you goat or are you fish? And you let the verses begin again. Because we remind you, goat versus fish will never end. It reminds us of a little verses that we had a conversation with a goat, a hard rockin' goat, just yester verses or the verses before. They were speaking to goat versus fish. And they said, goat versus fish, it is you. They came to understand in that verses. Some thinks that goat versus fish is not goat versus fish. Some think that goat versus fish is someone pretending to be goat versus fish. And that when it is goat versus fish, that they're not getting the real goat versus fish. But this hard-rockin' goat looked at goat versus fish, and in a moment of recognition and wisdom, realized, understood, you are goat versus fish. It is a true versus. When I'm speaking to goat versus fish, I'm not speaking to someone pretending to be goat versus fish. I am speaking to goat versus fish. It is who you are. I am goat versus fish, the goat fish, the unity and disunity of goat and fish. Can you accept goat versus fish? Can you accept goat? Can you accept fish? Can you accept yourself? If goat versus fish can accept goat versus fish, can you? Can you accept one another? It's up to you. If you cannot accept one another, you will always be lonely. Goat versus fish is wherever you are, whether you are near or whether you are far. So whether you are lonely or amidst celebration, goat versus fish wishes you a fair versus, a mighty contemplation, and a final, are you goat or are you fish? And it was written, and it was written.